Okay.
Would you mind please giving just a brief background on you?
So I am Beatrice Dixon, co-founder, CEO, CIO of the Honey Pot Company.
So what does the CIO do?
So I am the person that thinks of pretty much 98% of innovation at the Honey Pot. So the products that we're innovating into. So every year, the innovation that we have, essentially, I design what that looks like.
Is that more fun than being CEO?
Well, both are fun. I think the CIO part is cool because, you designing products and thinking about what people are using and what they need and how it lays out on the shelf. All that stuff is super fun, but it's also fun to, to be leading the company because we have a president now, which helps to make things a bit easier. But all of it's fun. It all blends together.
Cool. So what made you, I know I've been helping you and Cy, but what made you you all decide to start doing estate planning or like trusts and all that kind of thing?
I think the main thing is just adulting. To be honest, like when you have an asset like we do, our company is our asset, right? It's our retirement plan. It's in your best interest, I'll say that, to start thinking about how you want your life to look, how you want your life to feel, because that curation is all a part of why you did it in the first place, right? Like when you have a company or an asset or whatever, and I'll use a company because that's the thing that can really work to retire you, right? You want to make sure that you're curating your life. And a part of that curation is making sure that you're thinking about the future. I mean, my mother right now has Medicaid, gets her retirement. But by the time I'm my mother's age, it's very likely that those things won't even exist, right? And so, it's adulting, but also, I think it's just a part of the curation process.
So for you
of designing my life,
So it wasn't necessarily about being worried about dying, or it wasn't a morbid thing. It's more like just preparation.
It's not being worried about dying because death is inevitable.
Right. Right.
And the way that we're working and the way that we're building this thing, it could really be massive, right? And if not thought about, that could make it very messy for our families who may not know how to, like I barely even know about estate planning. I'm lucky that I have you and Simon, to help me to do that, because if not, I would have been lost. I'm sure I would have figured it out. I would have found people to help to sort those things out. But having people around that have the brain to understand what it should look like and what the design should be and how it should communicate and all those things are important, So I won't say that it isn't a morbid thing, because that's one of the biggest things about estate planning. But also it's kind of back to what I was talking about, because your estate planning can also affect you while you're alive, right? And so it's a little bit of both.
Had you seen other people, like, I guess, go through non-estate planning where they didn't do it and it was a headache, or, something to compare it to?
I have friends that have done it, but they did it after they accumulated their wealth. And it was a lot more expensive than doing it you know, prior to when you're accumulating your wealth, right? Like as of right now, me and Simon's wealth sits in equity in a company, right? You know, at some point that wealth will come to fruition, whether it be exiting our company, so going through a merger and acquisition, or if we decided to take the company public, right? That's when wealth is realized. You know, so now now our wealth advisors and our estate planners and our lawyers, such as yourself, you know, as one of the people that have helped us to plan all this, you know, they're not counting our money. You know what I mean? Because it's I don't want to call it phantom, but it is kind of phantom. It's sitting somewhere. But I think once you already have the liquid and everybody sees it and the shit's real, then it's like something that might have cost you $50,000 to do might cost you 100 or 200, you know? So I've seen people where they plan, but they kind of plan post. And, you know, and it's really important to really be thinking about this now, before you amass any sort of wealth. And even if you don't, even if you aren't going to amass some massive amount of money, I still think it's important. You know, that estate planning doesn't have to just be for the person who, you know, who's worth a lot. Estate planning is just being responsible and really putting thought to what's going to happen in the future, you know, because we never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you find the process to be difficult?
Yes.
Yes. Why? What made it hard?
Because I don't fully understand it.
Mm.
And I think anything that you don't fully understand, it's hard to wrap your mind around. Mm-hmm. Whereas like you and Sai went to school for this shit and you have degrees in it. You know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm a lay person. Yeah, of course it was hard because you don't think about that. Like, you ever heard that saying? It's not so much of a saying, it's more of a thought. But you know, when you get into like self-help and wanting to kind of get yourself together and you start reading self-help books, and a lot of the self-help books will tell you to think about your funeral and think about who you would invite, right? And to let that communicate to how you treat your family and how you treat your friends, and you know what I mean? But yeah, like who the fuck wants to think about when they're gonna die? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't make me wrong, I have learned how to die on my fingers, right? Like I have fell in love with this concept just because it's a big part of life. You know, but even being that human, it's still hard to like, damn, okay, so who actually would I want to leave things to? Mm-hmm. How do I think about my assets? How do I want to think about my future? How do I want to think about how I set up my bank accounts and how I set up who gets what? And you just, you know, I wasn't brought up to know about this and to think about this, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, having life insurance when you know, being a CEO of a company, like I have to have what's it called, key man insurance or something like that. So if some shit happens, like they can figure it out, you know. Mm-hmm. These are all pretty gnarly concepts to me, you know, they're interesting, but it's dope because we get the opportunity to have these conversations, and we get the opportunity to do things that are hard, mm-hmm. but they're important, because what's all this for if it doesn't support you and your family and your dreams, right?
Do you feel comfort in that you started the process, even if it was difficult or any of those?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I feel extremely comfortable and happy. And I'm extremely grateful for Simon, and I'm extremely grateful for you, you know, for just being a part of helping to design what all this looks like.
Awesome. That's it.